Namaste and welcome to the Science of Consciousness. I am Dr. Padmavathi Roy, a medical doctor turned technologist. Later, my quest for knowledge continued and expanded into Yoga, Vedanta and Tantra. This series is an integrative exploration of Yoga, Vedanta and Tantra, three profound streams of Indian wisdom that have examined the nature of life, mind, energy and consciousness for thousands of years. In this series, we will explore questions that human beings have asked across cultures and generations. Those are: what is consciousness? Is consciousness produced entirely by the brain, or is the brain an instrument through which consciousness expresses itself? Why are we born? Does human life have a deeper purpose? And what do the yogic traditions mean when they speak about chakras, Lokas, Kundalini and higher states of awareness? Actually, these are vast questions. I do not approach them as someone claiming to have answer for each and every question, but I approach them as a student, a practitioner myself, and as an educator, someone who has spent many years learning how to understand complex systems and present them in a clear and structured way. Through my study of yogic literature, particularly teachings connected with Bihar School of Yoga, together with ideas from Vedanta and Tantra, I began to see a larger pattern. Most of us have heard about the 7 chakras. But what if those 7 chakras are not the whole journey? What if they form the middle part of a much greater continuum of consciousness? These questions led me to the framework that we will be exploring in this first season. That is the science of consciousness, and this first episode, 3 octaves of consciousness: the lower octave, the human octave or the middle octave and the higher octave. And 21 centers or levels of awareness viewed as 3 expressions of one single consciousness. Before we begin, I want to make one point very clear. The 3-octave model is an integrative framework that I am going to walk you through. It brings together concepts that appear across yogic and philosophical literature. I am not presenting it as a doctrine stated in precisely this form in one ancient text. Where a teaching comes directly from a specific particular traditional source, I will say so. Where I am offering a connection, interpretation or synthesis, I will make that clear to all of you as well. The aim of this series is not to create another belief system. The aim is to offer a map that may help us understand where human life stands within the larger journey of consciousness. So let us start our exploration into the science of consciousness, the 3 octaves of consciousness. So I'm going to share that big picture. If we talk about 3 octaves, considering 7 human octaves or chakras, which we will see very shortly, then there are 21 centers or levels of awareness viewed as 3 expressions of one single continuous consciousness. Before we begin, I want to make this point very clear. The three-octave model is an integrative framework, especially it is my integrative understanding of the consciousness, reading books on yoga, meditation and pranayama, and also practicing these things from various sources. It brings together concepts that appear across yogic and philosophical literature. So now, human life as the turning point. As I was growing up, I often heard my grandmother and my mother reciting slokas and telling stories about the different lokas mentioned in our scriptures, like names such as Bhur, Bhuvar, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala and Rasatala were familiar to my ears long before I understood what they meant. Like many children, I was fascinated. What do these lokas look like? Who lives there? Are they real places? Are they symbolic? Why did our ancestors speak about them so often? As I grew older, life became busy and those questions slowly faded into the background. Yet, I am sure many of us have had similar experiences. We had heard these names in prayers, mantras, or forms of stories from our elders. But if someone asked us today to explain them, many of us probably could not. There was another statement my grandmother often repeated, that is Manava Janma Khalu Durlabham. That is, human birth is indeed rare and precious. She would say that after many janmas, consciousness attain a human birth. At that age, I accepted those words with faith, but I never really stopped to ask why human life was considered so special. Years later, while studying all the scriptures and teachings like yogic scriptures, Vedantic texts, and so on and so forth, Bhagavad Gita, Vedas, I began to see these ideas from a different perspective. What if human life is not just another stage of existence? What if it is the strategic turning point in the evolution of consciousness? Within the framework that I will present in this presentation, in this episode, the human octaves occupies the central position. Below it lie the lower octave, above lie the higher octave. So, which represents increasing identification with matter, the lower octave. Above it lie the higher octave, which represents the gradual expansion of awareness towards subtler state of consciousness. From this perspective, human life becomes a unique opportunity, a turning point. If we consciously cultivate awareness, wisdom, compassion, and inner discipline. Consciousness has the possibility of moving towards the higher octaves naturally. As when water boils, it evaporates and goes up. Similarly, natural tendency of the consciousness is to reach that higher octaves. We continue strengthening the patterns that bind us to the lower octaves. In case if we remain completely governed by ignorance, attachment, fear and unconscious living, then we will be pulled down to the lower octave or lower consciousness. This is why I think I call this human life the strategic turning point. So, from this place, right, the place where conscious can choose its path, its direction, either upward path or a downward path. That's what this human octave is, a turning point, human life as the turning point. So, before we explore the details, let us understand the journey of the consciousness. So, when we have seen in this previous slide lower octave, that lower octave evolution happens through the matter, and then the human octave evolution happens through the consciousness, and at the higher octave evolution towards the divine consciousness. So, why we need to understand? Actually, before we explore the details further, let me share something. Whenever we learn something new, I believe it is always helpful to first understand the overall concept and then go through a map which I am going to show you. So, then introduce you to the vocabulary which I am going to share. So, most of us first look at the map if we want to visit a new place, right? So, start exploring individual cities. So, today I would like to do exactly that. This entire series can be understood as one continuous journey of consciousness. Those who are just listening, imagine this. Remember, I am not trying to tell three separate stories, but this is a single story unfolding in three stages. Stage 1 is the evolution through matter. Stage 2 is evolution through human consciousness. And stage 3, evolution towards divine consciousness. So this is the first stage is lower octave. Here we will explore consciousness as it becomes increasingly associated with matter, structure, instinct and the survival. The second is the human octave, where this is where the consciousness becomes self-awareness. Right, like we are aware of ourselves and others as well. That I-ness, I have done this, he has done that, she has done that, that I, he, they, that thinking where from that awareness, self-awareness, awareness of others is coming from that human consciousness. In this human octave, we encounter the 7 principal chakras. So, as for the first time, consciousness has the ability to observe itself, make choices and consciously evolve, right? So, in these 7 chakras, that chakra bhedana will start happening, piercing of the chakra start happening from that Mooladharam. So, Brahma Grandhi and Vishnu Grandhis in different chakras will be pierced, and then the consciousness raises towards the higher centers. So, then the third stage is higher octave. Here, the consciousness expands beyond ordinary human awareness towards subtler and more universal states. As we move through this series, remember one important point. These are not 3 different consciousness, but again and again I am stressing on these points. This is a single consciousness which is expressing itself through 3 states. Just as the same musical note can be played in different octaves, consciousness expresses itself as different levels of subtlety, while just as the same musical note can be played in the lower octave, middle C and higher C in a keyboard, similarly consciousness expresses itself as different levels of subtlety while remaining fundamentally one. One question you might have: why am I using the word octave? Before moving ahead, let me explain this as well. We normally associate octaves with music. Let me demonstrate. Now I am playing lower C, which I say this is the lower octave, and this is middle C. This is middle octave, and then higher C. This is higher octave. Did you notice something? They are three different notes, but they are the same note expressed at different frequencies. That is exactly the analogy I am using for consciousness as well. Just as the same musical note can be expressed through different octaves, consciousness expresses itself through different levels of subtlety while remaining fundamentally one. Isn't that beautiful? The note never loses its identity, only its frequency changes. Likewise, consciousness never changes its essential nature. What changes is the level through which it expresses itself. For those familiar with Indian classical music, this is the same shadja, the same sa, resonating through different octaves. The frequency changes, but the identity of the note remains same. That is the journey we are about to explore together. Here I want to clarify one point. The octave is a metaphor I have borrowed from the music. Just as musical notes can be expressed through different octaves while remaining recognizably the same note, I am using the idea of octaves as a way of understanding progressively subtler expression of consciousness. Lower, the 7 chakras in the middle octave, and the higher octave, progressing towards the divine consciousness. So, why does the journey begin with matter? So, when we talk about the lower octave, the question comes to the mind, why does the journey begins with matter? Have you ever wondered why does every seed first become a root before it becomes a flower? Why does every child first learn to crawl before learning to either sit? Why the milestones for a child? Why does every building begin with foundation before the upper floors are made? Nature seems to follow a simple principle, same simple principle. Complexity is built upon stability. Perhaps consciousness follows a similar rhythm. This is the idea I would like us to explore. Evolution through matter. So, evolution through matter, in the framework we are exploring, the journey begins with the lower octave because embodied consciousness first encounters limitation, structure, and matter before it can evolve towards self-awareness. Throughout my professional life as an enterprise architect, I learned that every successful system begins with a well-designed foundation. Whether we are building a hospital information system, a bridge, or a home, we never begin with the finishing touches. We begin with the structure that supports everything else. As I studied yogic philosophy, I began to wonder, does consciousness follow the same principle? Does it too unfold from a stable foundation before reaching higher levels of complexity and awareness? Before we go further, I want to pause and name something clearly. The framework I am presenting today is an integrative model that helps us understand the journey of consciousness. It is inspired by yogic literature and my own study of these traditions. With that said, let us sit with the question itself. Why does the journey begin with matter? Why don't we begin with human beings? Or better still, why doesn't consciousness simply begin in its higher state? These are natural questions. If consciousness is fundamentally one, why should it appear through matter at all? One possible answer is, imagine you wanted to build a temple. Would you begin with the beautiful dome or gopuram, or would you first prepare the foundation? Every architect knows the answer. Without a strong foundation, the structure cannot stand. Nature appears to follow the same principle. Before there is life, there is matter. Before there is movement, there is structure. Before there is thought, there is organization. Before there is self-awareness, there is experience. The journey unfolds step by step. If we look around us, we can see this pattern everywhere. Minerals provide stability. The earth gives structure. Elements combine. Life emerges. Simple organisms appear. Increasingly complex forms evolve. Eventually, self-awareness becomes possible. Whether we look through the lens of biology, philosophy, or yoga, there seems to be gradual unfolding, not an instantaneous leap. And yoga does not reject matter. In fact, the physical body is considered a precious vehicle for spiritual evolution. Without the body, there is no breath. Without breath, there is no prana. Without prana, there is no meditation. Without meditation, there is no conscious awakening. Matter, therefore, is not an obstacle. Matter is not an obstacle. It is the foundation. This is why I believe the journey begins with the lower octave. Not because the lower octave is inferior, but because every great journey begins with a foundation. Only after stability comes, then the movement comes. Only after the movement comes awareness. Only after awareness comes the wisdom. So let me leave you with this thought. Notice how nature never seems to hurry. A child does not begin by running. First there is standing, then walking, then running. Each stage makes the next one possible. Perhaps consciousness follows the same unhurried rhythm. With that understanding, let us now begin our exploration of the first octave, the lower octave. So it is from limited expression to fuller expression of the same consciousness. Now, here is a subtle but important distinction. One I want us to sit with before we go any further. The journey we are describing is not from unconsciousness to consciousness. It is tempting to think of matter as unconscious and the higher state as where consciousness begins. But that is not quite what this framework proposes. Consciousness is already present fully at every level. What changes is not whether consciousness is there. What changes is how freely it can express itself. In a stone, consciousness is real, but almost entirely bound, compressed, still, barely stirring. In a plant, it stirs a little more, turning towards light, responding to touch. Have you ever seen a plant always turns to the side where sun comes? Where from that expression is coming? Have you ever seen a sunflower always turns to the face of the flower always turns to sun, who has given the power to express the plant. So, a Mimosa pudica, there is a plant, Mimosa pudica. It responds to touch, right? It shrinks inside by human touch. Who has given that expression? In an animal, it moves further still, sensing, feeling, reacting. In a human being, it opens into reflection, the capacity to know that one knows. And beyond the human, it opens further still towards union, towards the infinite. At no point does consciousness switch on. At no point it is absent and then present. What evolves is not consciousness itself, but its expression that I have been telling from the beginning. How much of it a given form is able to hold and reveal. This is the shift I want to offer you. Not a ladder from unconsciousness to consciousness, but a widening of the same one single consciousness, moving from limited expression towards fuller expression. It is from limited expression to fuller expression of the same consciousness. The expression of consciousness evolves. The manifestation of consciousness evolves. Awareness becomes progressively expressed. Consciousness unfolds through progressively subtler level of expression. So the expression of consciousness evolves. What does it mean? Let us slow down and look at these. The expression of consciousness evolve. So not consciousness itself, its expression. Think of sunlight passing through different windows. Frosted glass, tinted glass, clear glass. The light does not change. What changes is how much of it is coming through and how clearly the light is coming inside through this into the room through these glasses. The manifestation of consciousness evolves. So this is the same truth seen from the outside. If expression is what consciousness does from within a form, manifestation is what we observe from without. The visible face of that same unfolding. A stone, a leaf turning towards the sun, or a flower turning towards the sun, a child's first word, each is consciousness. Just imagine we were talking about the progression of the consciousness from matter to the middle octave. So the animals, they have their own consciousness. They want to express love. Dogs want to express their love. They come near us, they lick, they see our face, they feel happy. But similarly, a human child or a human, we express our love with our, we can express through our words, or somebody more poetic, they can express their love in poetic way too. So the consciousness from just showing through some gestures to something else which is evolving. So similarly, consciousness is manifesting a little more. Awareness becomes progressively expressed. Notice the word here, progressively, not suddenly, not in a single leap from nothing to everything. Step by step, the way dawn does not arrive at all once, but gradually dawn comes in degrees of light. So similarly, consciousness unfolds through progressively subtler levels of experience. And this is where the octaves we have been speaking of come in. Each level, from the density of matter to the openness of higher awareness, is not a separate thing. Consciousness enters, right? It is a subtler degree of the same expression unfolding. So when we speak of the lower octave, the human octave, and the higher octave, we are not describing three different consciousness, but the same consciousness expressing at different levels. So that is the thread I want you to carry with you as we go forward, unfold into the future. Here in this slide, I want to show these 21 centers, 3 octaves and 1 consciousness. From matter to human awareness to divine consciousness. So each level you have 7 octaves, 7 lokas, right? From dense matter, the Atala, evolution in matter, Pitala, subtle matter, Sutala, mineral life, Talatala is plant life, Rasatala, lower animal life, Mahatala, that is instinct and survival, Patala, inertia and sleep. So these 7 centers of lower octave of the consciousness identified with matter, survival and evolution. When it comes to the middle octave, 7 principal chakras from bottom to top, Mooladhara, that is the foundation, the survival. And then comes the Swadhisthana chakra, that is for creativity and flow. And Manipura, the power, the transformation. And then Anahata, the love, the harmony. Vishuddhi, expression and purification. Ajna, awareness and intuition. And then Sahasrara, crown and unity. These are the 7 principal chakras evolution in the human. And then comes the higher octave, the 7 higher lokas, the evolution in spirit from bottom to top. Bhur loka, that is physical plane, gross life. Bhuvar or bhuva, vital plane, subtle life. Swar, mental celestial plane. Maha, higher wisdom, transcendence. Jana or Janoloka, realm of creators, higher beings. Tapoloka or Tapa, austerity, radiance. Satya or Brahmaloka, truth, divine consciousness. These are the 7 centers of spiritual expression leading to divine awareness and cosmic unity. So when we hear the word chakra, most of us think these 7 chakras, but what, as in this slide I am showing, total 21 centers or 21 chakras are in these 3 octaves. So this is an important diagram. This I wanted to dig deeper as we are progressing into these episodes. My aim is to show this consciousness evolves through these 21 centers expressed as 3 octaves. So each level is frequency of pranic energy and stage of awareness. This model I have thought, which is based on the yogic philosophy, drawn from traditional yogic and related literature. So this map we will be returning again and again in this total. So these 21 centers, 1 consciousness. So with this thought of 21 centers and 3 octave, 1 consciousness map, as we come to the end of our first episode, let us pause for a moment and reflect on what we have explored together. Today, we did not attempt to explain every loka or every chakra in detail. Instead, we stepped back and looked at the larger map which you are seeing on the screen. We explored the idea that consciousness can be viewed as a journey expressed through 3 octaves, that is the lower octave, the evolution of the matter, the human octave, the awakening of self-awareness, and the higher octave, the expansion towards divine consciousness. Rather than seeing these as separate worlds, I have invited you to consider them as a different expression of one consciousness unfolding through progressively subtler levels of experience. Whether you approach these ideas as a student of yoga, a seeker, a scientist, or simply someone curious about life, I hope this framework encourages you to ask deeper questions, not only about the universe, but about yourself. Perhaps the most important question from today's episode is not how many lokas are there, nor is it how many chakras are there. The more important question is, where am I in my own journey of consciousness? Am I becoming more aware, more compassionate, more balanced, more conscious in the way I think, speak, and act? Or am I simply allowing life to pass by without reflection? Because ultimately, the journey of consciousness is not something happening somewhere else. It is happening within each one of us every single day. I would like to leave you with one simple thought. A map does not complete the journey, but without a map, we may never know where the journey is leading. Today, we have unfolded the map from the next Today, we have unfolded the map. From the next episode onwards, we begin walking the path. Hope you all like this episode. Please share your thoughts. Thank you.